Hello YouTube, this is Dr. Ronald W. Satz, founder and chair of the International Society of Unified Science and president of TransPower Corporation, a commercial and custom software manufacturing and certified systems engineering company. I work as a theoretical physicist and as a systems and mechanical engineer. This is a special screencast. I normally don't do more than one per week, but given that we're all shut down because of this virus, what better time than to talk about what is a virus? What is life, indeed? As you know, I work with the reciprocal system, which is a supersymmetrical theory of space and time. And the founder of the theory, the originator of the theory, was my theoretical physics mentor, my theoretical economics mentor, Dewey B. Larson. So I'm going to quote extensively from his metaphysical work, Beyond Space and Time, page 73 and page 75. In fact, let me just see. Yeah, I have it right here. Here's what it looks like. The book. Put that back. All right. So I'm quoting Dewey, who, by the way, was by far the most logical and most intelligent individual I've ever worked with. I worked with him from 1965 until his death in 1990. Okay, quote. Another important contribution which the theoretical findings with respect to the nature of the control over the biological organism make toward clarifying collateral issues is that they enable us to account for some of the aspects of the situation along the borderline between the living and the non-living that have been difficult problems for the biologists. The behavior of viruses, for example. Some of the viruses can be crystallized, and in this form they have no biological activity. From all indications, they are no different from any other organic crystals. But when this apparently inanimate matter is introduced into a living cell, it behaves as a living organism, assimilating food from the environment and producing a multiplicity of replicas of itself. Is the virus then living or non-living? Or does it occupy some kind of an intermediate position between the two? Continuing with the quotation, page 73. On the basis of the theory developed in the preceding discussion, the virus in the crystalline condition is a purely material structure, and as such has no biological capability. Now let me just interject here. There are two halves to the physical universe, our material half, in which velocity is s over t, and the inverse or cosmic sector, in which velocity is t over s. Hence the name reciprocal system. Okay, continuing. But it has the potential of replication in an appropriate environment because of its molecular structure. And when it enters a living cell and becomes subject to the cosmic or inverse forces that are exerted by the life unit in control of the cell, this potential is activated and the virus behaves as a biological organism. Thus, the virus is living within the cell because its behavior is controlled by a life unit, or a number of such units, which, by the way, a life unit would be comprised of what conventional scientists call mesons. These are actually cosmic atoms or cosmic molecules. Outside the cell, it is not under such control and therefore is not living. The activities of the virus the activities of the virus are detrimental to the cell, but the control exercised by the life unit is purely mechanical, and it is unable to distinguish between foreign DNA and its own. It treats the DNA, and I should add the RNA as well, if it's an RNA virus, as if it were indigenous to the cell. Generalizing the foregoing explanation, we arrive at a definition of life. Okay, so listen closely. Life is a condition in which a material aggregate, that's normal material matter, is under the control of one or more life units of a cosmic inverse nature, that is, mesons. The quote, continuing the quotation here, an idea of the difficulty that has been experienced in formulating a comparable definition on the basis of conventional theories can be gained from an examination of the following recently published wording. Life is a partial, continuous, progressive, multiform, and conditionally interactive self-realization of the potentialities of atomic electron states. And that's reference 115 in the book. I'm not even going to bother to look it up. It's so silly. On the foregoing basis, death is a process in which the life units lose control over the material aggregate. Since there is little reason for loss of control in a simple unicellular organism, such units should not die unless they exhaust their food supply or are physically destroyed, by fire, for instance, or by becoming food for some other organism. This is confirmed by observation. Death from, quote, natural causes, quote, is a phenomenon of the complex organism, and it results from inability of the organism to keep all of its vital parts in good working order indefinitely. Whether or not this is inevitable is still an unanswered question. At any rate, it seems evident that it is the result of an evolutionary development, end quote. So that's page 73. Now we'll go to page 75. I'll just scroll down here. Our findings as to the nature of life also give us some understanding of the origin of life on our particular planet. In view of the existing uncertainty as to the exact nature of the primitive life unit, the cosmic unit that enters into combination with a material structure and causes the change in behavior from that of the inanimate world to that of the living organism, there is a substantial range of possibilities to be considered. If this unit amounts to any major portion of the molecule as a whole, then the occurrence of a combination of the right kind depends on the entry of the necessary unit from the cosmic sector. And I'll interject here via the cosmic rays, and contact with an appropriate material aggregate in the extremely short time available. The probability of such a happening is very small, but it does have a finite value. And although such an event might not take place more often than once in 1,000 years or even once in 1,000,000 years, yet it is certain to take place sooner or later when there are billions of years available for this small probability to take effect. Okay, continuing with the quotation. Even on the assumption that the primitive life unit is relatively large, therefore, the emergence of life on a planet such as the Earth, where suitable conditions exist, is inevitable. If the life unit is a relatively small feature of a molecule, the probability of the right kind of an encounter is greatly increased. In that case, the origin of life would be practically automatic once the required giant organic molecules became available. After the first life unit has gained a foothold, an explanation of the spreading of life over the surface of the planet encounters no serious difficulties. The reason why we do not observe life originating in this manner, why life comes only from life, so far as we can see, I should say currently, is that the raw materials from which the forces of nature would build life if they had a chance to operate are so eagerly sought by the myriad of life forms already existing that they are never available. It should theoretically be possible, however, to observe the boundary between living and non-living experimentally by differentiating between a purely material molecule of DNA or RNA and a cosmically controlled molecule. The latter should replicate itself in the proper environment, while the purely material molecule should not. An experiment of this kind would distinguish between living and non-living at the lowest possible level. In fact, the viruses may already be trying to give us this information, end quote. So there you have it, the true theory of viruses and the true theory of life, I might add. All right, so please study the reciprocal system and prove it for yourself. And thanks for your attention.